everyone, and welcome to my channel, Hey Vaughn, where we're all about learning, unlearning, living well, and staying moisturized along the way. Today, I would love to talk to you guys about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, which is how I freed myself from the shackles of people pleasing. And I know a lot of people can identify with this, and just wanted to share some of the tips that I learned as a millennial, as an auntie, along the way, in hopes that this may help somebody else too. I think for me, getting rid of that people pleasing tendency was one of the hardest yet most rewarding things I could have done, because it led me on the path of true freedom, which for me is living as authentically, as 100% me as possible, most of the time, as much as possible. So yeah, let's dive into it. So the first thing I want to talk about in terms of how I kind of freed myself from people pleasing is freeing myself from the tyranny of niceness and perfection. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times as women, especially as Black women, we are taught to sacrifice ourselves for the benefit of others, to be a martyr. We are very much taught this narrative of struggle, of suffering, struggle love, struggle life, being in relationships that don't serve us, being in friendships that don't serve us, continue to deal with family members that don't serve us. And we're taught that that is a noble way to go. And I think that is one of the hardest things to unlearn as you get older. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being there for people. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with having community, right? A lot of times we get establishing boundaries and being in community confused. For me, community is mutual inconvenience, right? I'm going to do something to be there for you, even though it's not 100% convenient for me. And my friend, my community would do the same. So I'm not talking about community and being there for folks. I'm talking about overextending yourself to the point where you are burnt out and you feel like you have nowhere else to turn. I see that a lot of times with friends, with family, and even in the past myself, and even to this day, with all the work that I've done, I still have to tell myself, why are you really doing this? Is your intent really to help, or are you trying to mold your perception? Let me rewind that back. Are you really doing this because you want to, or are you trying really hard to set a good impression with someone by showing them that you are willing to do anything for them? And like I said, this is totally different from having community, right? That notion of like being there for people and people being there for you, right? That mutuality. I'm talking about this straight up burnout. For me, I had to realize that saying no didn't make me a bad person, in so much as giving folks direct feedback doesn't make me mean. And of course, there's always a way and a time and a place to do things, but for me, that was one of the biggest things, was saying no to things that didn't feel true to myself, didn't feel true to who I was, didn't feel true to my time constraints, while also acknowledging that I needed to be there for my community. All right, so the second thing that I learned as an ex-people pleaser is honestly allowing myself to suck. Like, it's okay not to be good at everything. Perfection is not required for acceptance. Perfection is not a requirement to be loved. Perfection is not a requirement to live well on this earth. And that's something that I really, really had to unlearn. As a daughter of immigrants, as the daughter of West African immigrants, and I'm sure a lot of you guys who are from immigrant families can understand this, the pressure to be perfect, especially academically, whew, you guys already know, right? And so giving myself the permission to say things are going to suck and that's going to be okay. Giving myself the permission to say, you know what, if I'm learning something new, it's going to be a learning curve. Like, it's going to suck. I'm going to be okay. A great example of this is art. I started doing art during the pandemic, and I started off with watercolor. Shout out to all my art girlies. And like, sometimes I did really good and sometimes I didn't do so great. And then I ended up doing acrylics and experimented with mixed medium. And now like half of my home is filled with my artwork. This right here is my art. This right here is my art. That over there is my art. And this is a process that took, 4 years, right? For me to really kind of develop, how do I say this? Kind of like my aesthetic in terms of my art, and also allowing that aesthetic to change as well. Like, one day I may decide to do like charcoal and sketches, right? Is giving myself the permission to suck, is giving myself the permission to have a learning curve, however steep or shallow it may be. Also, I have to keep telling myself, it is normal to not be perfect. It is normal to just be and exist in this world. Like, I was having a conversation about this with a friend and her friends the other day. And I was like, we all live to pretty much die. And while that sounds really morbid, and to some people it may sound kind of up, but like, we are all on this earth to die. And what we do with our lives in between the time we were born and the time that we leave this earth, whenever that may be, is totally up to us, right? And yes, there are, depending on who you are, your race, your socioeconomic status, your gender, we have constraints on our lives, but there is still a level of freedom within those constraints. And for me, when I think about how I want to live my life until the day the Lord or the universe or whoever calls me, is I want to live a life that I feel really good about, with people that I feel really good about, and just live. Just free myself from all the expectations, self-imposed or not, and really think to myself, what do I want out of this life, however short or long my life may be? And what are some of the things I can do to get there? So the third thing that I realized in my quest to be an ex-people pleaser is not being afraid to fail, even if that's publicly. And I know that's hard for us because a lot of us don't want the people to see us fall, right? We don't want our haters to see us fall. The whole concept of haters is a whole other issue, but there's nothing wrong with failing, even when it's publicly, and there's nothing wrong with changing your mind. You can change your mind at any time. A good example of this is, for the longest time, I thought I was going to move out the country. I had planned this move for about 2 years. I was in the WhatsApp groups. I started to form community every time I went to this particular country. I was even talking to realtors about getting an apartment. Like, I was really in this. I was learning Spanish. Actually, I still am learning Spanish. And you couldn't tell me nothing. I was moving there. I was telling all my friends, I'm going to move there. Come visit me. I'm going to be outside. And I went there for about a month last year. And it was interesting. It was interesting. It was good. It was bad. It was indifferent. It was all the things, right? And I did that on purposely, not to put myself in vacation mode, because I wanted to see how life would really be there. And at the end of the day, a few things happened where I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to make this my next permanent home. Maybe somewhere that I will visit a few months out of the year, maybe somewhere that has a second home, but as like a permanent home, I'm not so sure about that, right? And so that required me telling a lot of my friends that, hey, like, I'm not moving out of the country anymore. Like, I'm going to stay my ass here in the United States, right? And I had to be okay with that. I had to be okay with that. However public I made that announcement, I had to be okay with rescinding that and be like, you know what, guys, oops, my bad. It's not going to happen. And that's fine. That is A-okay. And am I saying that I will never move there permanently? No. But for now, with everything that's going on in my life, that's not the best decision for me at this point in time. And that's okay for me to say, you know what? Right now, this is not going to happen. Maybe some other time, maybe never, but that's okay. And I think so many of us put so much weight on every decision, big and small, right? That every decision has to be the right one. But a lot of times we don't know whether these decisions are going to be the right ones until we go through them, right? And so I think about when people say live life with no regrets. Do whatever you want. And there is some truth to that. However, to be human means that you are going to have some regrets. To be human means that you are going to do some things, say some things, make some decisions that weren't in your best interest at that time, whether you knew it or not. To be human means that you're going to fuck up. And that's okay. It means you're going to it means you're going to change your mind. It means that you're going to have regrets. It means that, like, you're not going to do and say and be the perfect person all the time, and that is A-okay. And that's one of the things that I really, really had to learn on my ex-people-pleasing journey is that, like, it's okay for me to change my mind. And if anyone has a problem with that, that's not on me. I'm going to live my life the best way that I see fit. I'm going to live my life filled with as much joy, as much love, as much light, as much community as possible. And the way other people live their life, it's honestly, it's not my business. It's not your business, right? It's not any of our business, right? How we live our lives. So for me, that's one of the things that I really had to unlearn is freeing myself from the tyranny of niceness and perfection, allowing myself to suck and giving myself a bit of a learning curve. And also constantly reminding myself that it is okay to change your mind. So guys, those are my 3 things that I've learned on my journey to becoming more me, more authentic, more joyful, more confident and settled in who I am. And I really hope that this resonates with someone. If it does, please put in the comments what resonated with you. What are some other tips that you've learned on your journey to becoming more whole and more you? I would love to know more. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. I'm going to have a video here or here. This is my second video, guys. So I don't know. I don't know where to point yet in, like, the YouTube universe, but I will link one of my videos in one of these places right here. But thank you so much for tuning in, for listening to me, for giving me a piece of your time today. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.